Sherlock Holmes, you say the name, and right away you picture it. Deerstalker hat, the pipe, London fog. But how much of that image is actually Conan Doyle and how much is just us, pop culture filling in the blanks?
It's a bit like one of his cases, isn't it? Even trying to figure out when Sherlock Holmes was born. It's a puzzle. We've got these conflicting clues in the stories themselves. Some point to 1854, others late as 1868.
Wait, 1868. Okay, 1854, I get. But late 1860s, that would make him practically a teenager when Jack the Ripper was around, wouldn't it? Doesn't that kind of mess with the timeline people have in their heads?
That's exactly it. And that's where what's called the Sherlockian game comes in. You see, these fans, they don't just read these stories. They treat them like a real historical record. Inconsistencies, everything.
Oh, interesting.
It's all about, reconciling those inconsistencies, trying to build a real, believable life story out of the little clues and hints that Conan Doyle left behind.
So it's like they're almost like partners with Conan Doyle in a way. He sets up the mystery, but it's their job to crack the case of the real Sherlock Holmes.
Exactly. You've got it. And like any good case, you got to ask about inspiration, right? We know Conan Doyle was a medical student, and the story goes that his professor, this Dr. Joseph Bell, was a huge influence.
Wait, so we're talking like real-life Sherlock vibes from this guy?
Oh, totally. Dr. Bell was famous for this incredible power of observation. I mean, they say he could tell you a patient's job, their habits, all sorts of things, just by looking at them. There's even this great anecdote.
Okay, gotta love a good anecdote. Lay it on me.
So the story goes, Bell, after observing Conan Doyle for a while, just turns to him and says, "You were Sherlock Holmes."
No way! That's amazing. Talk about calling it. So did Conan Doyle basically just take everything from Dr. Bell then? Or were there other detective stories he was into back then that fed into it?
Well, nobody creates in a vacuum, right? Conan Doyle definitely had his favorites when it came to detective fiction. He was a fan of Edgar Allan Poe's detective, C. Auguste Dupin. And he liked Émile Gaboriau. Another writer had this detective, Monsieur Lecoq.
Yeah, those names ring a bell. What was it about them that he liked, though?
Well, they were pioneers, right? They were some of the first in fiction to really emphasize logic and deduction to solve crimes. But here's the thing. Conan Doyle, he thought their methods were a little, how do I put this? A bit too much, a bit too showy, like they were pulling solutions out of thin air, relying more on intuition than a real solid process.
So he was going for something different then. He wanted to create the ultimate detective, the one who is all about observation, about the science of it all.
Fascinating. Okay, so we've got this brilliant, probably pretty chaotic mind on our hands. What was it like to actually live with Sherlock Holmes? Picture this. It's London. It's late. Rain is absolutely pouring down. You find yourself at 221B Baker Street, hoping to get in out of the weather. And what do you find? Well, let's just say, not your typical Victorian sitting room.
Okay, you're really setting the scene here. I'm intrigued. So what am I walking into? Describe it for me.
Well, first, the air. It's thick with pipe tobacco, obviously. But there's this other faint scent mixed in, like chemicals. And everywhere you look, piles and piles of books and papers. You'd think they were about to topple over any second. And in the middle of it all, there's Sherlock Holmes, pacing back and forth, completely in his element.
Sounds like what they call organized chaos. Not exactly a place to sit down for a nice cuppa, is it?
About that cuppa, you might want to give it a good look before you drink anything. Knowing him, it's probably doubling his storage for cigar ash or something. Some leftover experiment, who knows? Oh, and about those biscuits you might want with your tea.
Don't tell me. In the coal scuttle.
You got it. First rule of 221B Baker Street. Never assume anything is what it seems. But for Holmes, that was kind of the point, wasn't it? It was like the material world was just secondary, an afterthought. He had bigger things on his mind.
And Watson, he just put up with all this. I mean, he's a doctor. You'd think he'd be a bit more bothered by what sounds like, frankly, a health hazard.
Well, Watson was a man of science, too. Maybe he just understood Holmes's eccentricities, even if he didn't necessarily share them. Plus, let's not forget Holmes's, shall we say, other methods for staying sharp. The famous 7% solution.
Ah, yes, the cocaine. Always a bit of a controversial topic, that, isn't it?
Absolutely. But we got to remember the historical context, right? Back then, cocaine and morphine, they weren't viewed the same way they are today. They were legal, seen as just stronger tonics, really. For Holmes, they were tools. Dangerous ones, granted, but tools nonetheless. When the cases were slow, when his mind needed a jump start, that was his go-to.
Right, so not exactly advocating drug use here, more like acknowledging the reality of the time. It was a different world.
Exactly. Of course, Watson, being a doctor, was dead set against it. And that right there, that difference of opinion, I think it highlights something really important about their relationship.
Right.
It wasn't just a partnership, a professional arrangement. This was real friendship. These two, they cared about each other, even when they drove each other crazy.
What's the evidence for that, though? I mean, we don't see a lot of overt affection from Holmes. He seems pretty emotionally reserved most of the time.
Remember, the adventure of the three Garridebs.
Vaguely.
Right.
Remind me how it goes again.
So Watson gets shot, right?
Huh.
And Holmes, he completely loses it. He's beside himself with worry. Even vows revenge. That's not exactly typical Sherlock Holmes behavior, is it?
Good point. It's like all that aloofness just vanishes.
Exactly. In that moment, all that matters to Holmes is Watson. It's a glimpse into the depth of their bond, Goes way beyond just solving crimes together.
Wow. Fascinating. He really let his guard down for Watson. I wonder, did anyone else ever get past those walls?
There's one person who comes to mind. Irene Adler. The woman.
Ah, yes, Irene Adler. Any true Sherlock fan knows that name. What was it about her that got to him, do you think?
Well, for one thing, unlike a lot of the female characters in those old stories, she wasn't some damsel in distress. Not at all. She was smart, she was resourceful, and most importantly, she challenged Holmes. Intellectually.
Like that line to Sherlock Holmes, she is always the woman. Gives me chills every time.
It really does.
Mm.
Was it pure admiration he felt? Frustration? Maybe even. Something more. We'll never know for sure. Conan Doyle, clever as ever, leaves it open to interpretation.
Speaking of clever, let's talk about the heart of what makes Sherlock well. Sherlock. Those deductions. Everyone knows the phrase, elementary, my dear Watson. But how elementary were they, really? What was the method behind those deductions?
Okay, so Sherlock Holmes, he wasn't just making this stuff up as he went along. But still, when you read the stories, it all seems so effortless, Was it really elementary, or is there more to it than meets the eye?
Well, elementary is all relative, right? I mean, it's like watching, say, an Olympic athlete and thinking, hey, I could do that.
Right.
The real skill is making something complicated look easy. But Holmes, he did have a system. It was all about observation, super meticulous observation, and then, of course, deduction. But also, he had this almost impossible amount of knowledge about, well, everything, it seems.
So it's not just about seeing the clues, but understanding what you're actually looking at.
Exactly. You know that famous example, the mud on Watson's shoes?
Classic Holmes. Right. But he doesn't just see mud. He identifies the type of soil, the way it splashed. He even figures out that Watson's clumsy and careless servant girl had tried to clean it off. It's like he's taking these tiny, seemingly meaningless details and building this whole picture out of them.
Okay, that's pretty impressive. But was any of that real? Was Conan Doyle basing this on real-world science, or was it all just made up for the stories?
That's what's so cool about it. Back then, forensic science, it was really just getting started. But you can tell Conan Doyle, he was paying attention to what was happening in that world. I mean, Holmes uses footprint analysis, analyzes tobacco ash, figures out people's personalities and stuff from their handwriting, even gets into ballistics, way before it was a normal thing.
So he was kind of ahead of his time in a way, paving the way for how we solve crimes today.
100%.
Yeah.
He took this idea of a really scientific approach to crime, and he made it popular, Showed everybody that observation and deduction, it wasn't just some parlor trick, it was a way to find the actual truth. And speaking of finding the truth, we got to talk about that time when Conan Doyle, he tried to pull off the ultimate disappearing act with Sherlock Holmes.
Ah, yes. The great hiatus.
Hey.
Can you imagine the reaction today? I mean, Twitter would lose its mind if a beloved character was suddenly killed off like that. What was Conan Doyle thinking?
Well, imagine you're so good at writing one thing, so successful, that you start to feel kind of trapped,
Pigeonholed.
Yeah, exactly. That's how Conan Doyle felt. He was tired of Sherlock Holmes. He wanted to write about other things, different characters, try out other genres. He was feeling stifled, creatively.
So he sends him over Reichenbach Falls with Moriarty. Case closed, literally.
Right. He figured that was it. The end.
But of course, it totally backfired. I mean, the fans, they were not happy.
It was huge. People were devastated. I mean, they were writing angry letters, canceling their subscriptions to the magazine. Some people even wore black, like they were in mourning.
Wow. They weren't messing around.
Nope. It was like they'd lost a close friend, which, in a way, they had. That's how powerful those stories were, how real Conan Doyle made Sherlock Holmes feel to people.
Amazing. And eventually, that connection, all that outcry from the fans, it brought him back, didn't it?
It did. Conan Doyle, he finally gave in, brought Holmes back in The Adventure of the Empty House. I'm sure the fans were over the moon.
I bet. It's like even Conan Doyle himself, he couldn't resist coming back to 221B Baker Street in the end.
I guess not. So we've talked about his origins, how he used his mind, even that time he supposedly died. But why? Why is Sherlock Holmes still so fascinating to us, even now, all these years later? What is it about this character, created over a century ago, that still feels so relevant today?
It's a good question. What do you think?
It's probably a few things, honestly. Like, part of it is just human nature. We love a good mystery. Our brains crave those puzzles, figuring things out, finding that resolution. And Holmes, with that brain of his, those methods, he's like the ultimate puzzle solver.
Right, but it's more than that, isn't it?
Way more.
Yeah.
He represents something, this idea that logic and reason can win, even when the world feels random and chaotic, which, let's face it, it often does.
Yeah. And we can't forget that hint of darkness, right? Those flaws that make him more than just this perfect, unrelatable genius.
Exactly. Like the drug use, yeah, not great. The fact that he was kind of socially awkward sometimes, it's those imperfections,
Yeah.
They make him human.
Real.
Absolutely.
He's brilliant, sure, but he's got his struggles too. He reminds us that even the most amazing minds, they still have their weaknesses.
Right.
And maybe that's why we keep coming back to Sherlock Holmes after all this time, because somewhere in that struggle, in that desire to always be learning, to understand the world around us, we see a little bit of ourselves in him.
Maybe he is just a mirror to our own curiosity, our own desire to understand things.
Exactly. And in a world where it feels like we're constantly bombarded with information, it can be overwhelming. Maybe a little deduction can go a long way. So next time you find yourself in a real-life mystery, try channeling your inner Sherlock. Observe, deduce, and never underestimate the power of a curious mind. You never know what you might discover.